video for ICT 355-555 Systems Analysis and Design. The business case overview. In the industry, a business case along with documentation and deliverables for the software development lifecycle come in all different formats. This example was put together for this course based on an actual CRM system solution implementation for a technology company. The names of the company and individuals have been changed, and the content has actually been shrunk in size for the purposes of this course, as documentation for a brand new CRM solution can be quite lengthy. This one, in its unmodified state, was around 300 pages long. That's typical when you see all of the documentation combined into one. What you will be doing in this course is creating your own business case in software development lifecycle documentation and development in a more scalable size that fits the semester. You'll be documenting this on your group's SharePoint site. This example is being provided to you as a resource that you can utilize to see the different types of methods and techniques used to gather all of the information needed for a business case for a CRM software solution implementation project. The contents included in this business case outline a lot of the things that you'll be asked to do within your project intervals. Similar to the table of contents that you see here, you should have a similar navigation on your SharePoint site, so it's easy to navigate from section to section on your SharePoint site. You should also have a revision history. Now, within the interval, we are actually asking you to add two different types of revision histories. This one in particular only has the revision history for what was changed within this business case document. On your SharePoint site, we're asking for two different revision histories. The first one is the revision history for the documentation of your business case. The second revision history that you'll be asked to put on your SharePoint site is to capture the revisions that you will be making within the actual CRM system where you will be doing your development that goes along with this group project. You'll also see that there's a glossary of terms. Both the revision histories and the glossary of terms are two items that your group will most likely be making changes to throughout the project intervals. Keeping these up to date will ensure that all members that are reading or utilizing your business case information understand what the glossary of terms are and when the revisions are done. You'll also be asked to put together an executive summary. This is typically one of the last things that are done within a business case. The executive summary is meant to be a one-page or less summary that can be shared with your executives or leadership within your company. This really outlines what the project is at a very high level, why it's being done, how is it being done, expected start and end dates of the project, and any other useful information that you would want to share with the executive and leadership level so they don't have to look through your entire document or business case to find the information that they would want to know about. You'll also be asked to put together a business case overview. Your group will be acting as a consulting firm that's engaging a company to build a CRM solution for them. There should be a section about the consulting firm, which will be your group, which talks about what your consulting firm is, what do you do, what services you offer, and what your company goals are. You'll also be asked to document about the company your team will be engaging with for this business case. It's essentially providing a lot of background about the company. In this business case, you'll see that I've talked about the engaging company, and they have several different areas. They have product development, marketing, a sales and renewals team, and a technical support team as well. You'll also be asked to talk about the company's vision, the company's objectives, and then you'll be asked to finally get into their IT needs. So this first part is really the background about the company, telling more about what the company is. So doing some research and being creative about what your consulting company is all about and what the company that you are engaging with is all about. When you get into the company's IT needs, you'll be asked to talk about their current technology environment. What does their current technology environment look like? What data is there to back that up? In this instance, we talk about that they have a legacy desktop system. There's not an overall end-to-end process for technology, and that there's not central solutions. They have a lot of pain points and data to back this up. Things such as, this is supported by the 42% dissatisfaction rating in 2017 on surveys sent out on all their cases. This was a lot of the background for what even sparked the project for happening. You'll then be asked to map out their future visions, goals, and objectives for their IT environment. In this case, based on what we had uncovered about the current state, The company goals came out to be where they wanted a central repository for all their knowledge management information. They wanted to decrease dissatisfaction. They wanted to decrease case administration work on their case management. They wanted to move to a cloud-based application because, again, they were using a legacy system. They wanted to be able to conduct their business through mobile devices, centralizing their data, documenting all of their processes in a central repository, and being able for customers to do self-service for contact data. So a lot of the information that we just went through is really the background about your company and the company that you are going to be engaging with for your project. It's gathering as much knowledge as you can about the company, the background of them, their current IT and their future IT visions, objectives, and goals to essentially kick this project off. This is what your group is going to be asked to do in project interval 1. Once you get through the background about your consulting company and the company you're engaging with, we then move into the software development lifecycle phases. The first one is systems planning. So within system planning, essentially you are ready to kick off a project and you are starting to plan for that project. You'll talk through what the project overview is. Essentially, this equates out to a scope statement. What's in scope, what's out of scope. Project deliverables. So what are the deliverables that you'll be delivering with this project? It could be reports. It could be feasibility studies. It could be system requirements, which you will be documenting system requirements. The testing deliverables. The implementation deliverables. And then setting up a plan for maintaining the solution. So it's really going to be talking through what are the project deliverables that you will be delivering with this project. The systems planning section really ties back very nicely to your textbooks, chapters 1 through 3. Also under systems planning, we're going to have you put together a project plan. In this business case, we actually did sprints, and we are going to have you do something similar to this as well. Essentially, this is where we are introducing you to Agile-like techniques. Because this project is only a semester long, we're not able to do a pure Agile software development project. And I will tell you, most companies in the industry are not able to get to pure Agile. Most companies actually utilize Agile techniques. So we end up calling them Agile-like software development. So what you'll see in the business case is an actual project plan where it was broken out by sprints. When you think of this project and you're being asked to implement a CRM system solution for our company, and you think of that in totality, in waterfall software development lifecycle, you're essentially doing a phase and then that's done. And then you do the next phase and that's done. And you do another phase and that's done. So in waterfall, you would do systems planning, finish that up. You would do system analysis, finish that up. You do all of the design for the entire system. So writing all of the requirements, all of the models, etc. that are required to develop the system. And then that would be done and passed off to your IT developers. And then they would go off and develop those solutions, and it would go through testing and it would go through implementation. Where Agile techniques come into play, and what we used for this example business case, is we broke the system up from its totality into sections. So in the first sprint, we focused on pieces of the project. The main goal of this project was essentially to be able to have customers and users enter cases for technical issues that customers were having. Knowing that as our main goal for the CRM system, when we started planning out our sprints, we kept that in mind and started breaking that out into smaller chunks to figure out what could we do in an iterative manner to be able to develop the system over time instead of all at once, like they would in a waterfall software development lifecycle. We wanted to be able to utilize Agile techniques to be able to develop the system on an ongoing basis while we were gathering requirements for the next piece we were building. We wanted to make sure that we were able to start with the base functionality and then build all the way until we got to the system in totality. So in our first sprint, we decided that we were going to build out the customer information and the organization information and the user interfaces that would go along with that. We started with our customer information and our organization information because we need customer and organization information to even get to be able to enter in a case. In sprint 2, we took the next section which we broke out. We took service types and product information, because every organization that would call in would have customers associated to it, as well as service types they've purchased and products they purchased. In Sprint 2, we focused on that. And you can see our sprints were about 2 weeks long. In this course, we're only asking you to do Sprints 1 and Sprints 2. In this business case, we actually did many sprints. I only left in 7 of the sprints out of the 25, I believe, that we ended up doing. But you're able to see how these things, we built out the organization to customer, then we built out the service types and product information to get us to Sprint 3, where we could actually build out the case information, where a user would be able to enter in information into the CRM system, pull information from our organizations, our customers, as well as the service types and products that they've purchased, to be able to submit a case and have a user actually work that case with the customer to completion. There's other sprints in here. I'm not going to go through each of those, but this is available for reference for you to walk through. The next section is the project roles and responsibilities. So for project roles and responsibilities, you can utilize this as a guide, or again, there is information in your textbook as well to the roles and responsibilities of each of these. But within your project, you should be identifying which project roles and responsibilities there should be for your group project and who will be doing that. You'll have people from your team, which is the consulting group, and you'll have people from the company that you choose to do as well. This is important to ensure all members know what their role is and what their responsibilities are for the project. There are plenty of other tools and techniques that can be used within the system planning section of a software development. Again, there are a lot of tools and techniques that can be referenced within the textbook as well. Please feel free to not limit yourself to what's available in this reference. If you have other tools and techniques that you would like to utilize, please do so in your group project. The next section or phase of this business case was systems analysis. So you can see that this section is not broken out by sprints. Systems analysis was actually done in the totality because it was putting together business models and process models as it related to the business to gather more information. Number one, to support that we were doing our sprints in the correct order, but also to analyze to ensure that we weren't missing any business units or functions that should be identified to be in the CRM software solution. This, however, was not a one and done. These models did get tweaked throughout all of the sprint developments as we learned more information when we got into the development and the design with our users, and also the demoing of the development of what we built for them. There are many models that can be used for systems analysis. Again, I'm going to refer to the textbook because I do believe the textbook has a lot of great information for you to utilize on what are business models, what are process models, what are data models. There are object models out there as well. There are several different models that can help you conduct systems analysis. Again, please do not limit yourself to the models that are in this document. Again, this is just a reference. There are plenty of other models that can be utilized to conduct systems analysis. Some of the models we did use in here, though, are business models, where the business model that we put together was essentially just analyzing what does the business look like, what are the different areas, and what do they do, just to get a bigger picture of the entire company in totality to make sure, again, that we weren't missing anything for our CRM software solution development. We also did some process modeling as well for case creation, for article creation, for contact creation. We wanted to make sure, again, that the processes that were followed today, if there was any improvements that needed to be made to those, or if we needed to make sure that we included another area within the creation or utilization of the software system, that we were calling that out. We also put together user models just to ensure that we had all of the different users that would be involved in the case creation or CRM development in any way, shape, or form was called out, and we were able to analyze that and utilize that for our system design. We also put together data models, being able to look at the existing data that was out there, where that information was, and what information that they actually needed. Really helped us to get into the systems design aspect, which is the next phase that comes after systems analysis. When you get to systems design, this is essentially where you will be documenting everything that a IT developer needs to have or knowledge they need to know when they're building a solution for a user. So in this business case, we did do a high-level data requirements mapping. to know all of the different pieces of information that we needed to have and how they all linked together. This information gave a high-level view to our IT developers to ensure that we had the correct data being stored and the correct data being linked together. We did dive into this in more detail for each sprint. We also did user profile requirements. When you have a new CRM system, you have users and profiles that will need to be set up to ensure that you have the right people in the system being able to create, read, update, and delete information within the system. This again was helpful to our IT developers to develop the profiles and the security that was needed in the system. We also analyzed system requirements. Again, the system requirements were more at a totality of the system rather than sprint by sprint, but these did get updated with each sprint as more information was known. So our system requirements really talk about the system reliability. How often does the system need to be up? How accurate does it need to be? What security needs to be around the system? Is there a single sign-on? Is there a token that needs to be utilized to sign on with? And also system maintainability. How easy is this system going to be to program in the future or make enhancements to? So we really needed to think about the system requirements as well. So then we get into the systems design based on sprint. As I went over in systems planning, we did a project plan where it was based on sprints, where we did chunks of functions within the system and continued to build those. Same concept that you guys will be utilizing with your group project. When breaking it out into chunks, we first took the customer and organization information. For customer, you can see that we defined the data requirements. These were more detailed data requirements than the data requirements I showed you previously. This is really getting into what the field names are, what the field types are, what the formats are, if they're pick lists, what the drop-down values are going to be, if it's required, when it's required, what the default values should be, if it's auto-populated. It's all of those requirements that are needed for IT to be able to develop these data fields and put them on a user interface and know exactly what they should be doing. It also captures who can update those, so it is capturing those security and auditing requirements as well. Again, please utilize this as a reference for when you're getting to developing your data requirements. There's also functional requirements that go along with the data requirements and your user interface requirements. Functional requirements really essentially put together what are the inputs that are needed, what is the processing that's needed, and what are the outputs that are needed, as well as other requirements that may be needed for the IT developer to develop the system according to the user specifications. So in this instance, we had input where a contact record must be able to be created, updated, and read by users of the system. There were other requirements that went along with this, that an organization record must be able to be associated to multiple contact records. We hadn't identified that yet in our data requirements. So that is something that our IT developer would need to know. A process item, if a contact is changed from deactivated back to active, the contact disable date field must be set to blank. These are all of the requirements that a user is going to want to see within the system when they're utilizing and entering this contact information. So the functional requirements are complementing essentially your data requirements that you've identified and pretty much telling the IT developer what are the things that need to be input, what are the processes that need to happen, how is this system supposed to function based on what the users have requested. Auditing requirements then cover when you have this data, when you have this user interface and you're entering this information in, what are the things that should happen if something changes on these records? So some of the things we captured were all fields on an organization record must be able to only be updated by users in the customer care profile. Another one is all updates made to an organization record must be captured in an audit log with the following information. So if one of these fields changes on this organization record, it should be capturing who changed it, when it was changed, not just the date, but the date and time. And also what changed, what was the before value and what was the new value. We also have an output under the auditing requirements that a report must be generated for customer care to look at all contact records that do not have an organization associated to them. So the contact record can then be updated and handled according to customer care. They wanted to do some auditing, some reports to ensure that they're also auditing their customer contact information and their organization information. We also put together user interface and wireframe prototypes. This information it truly is. It is just a wireframe or a prototype that you can give to your IT developer so that they can look at this and look at the auditing requirements you've given them, your functional requirements, and your data requirements, and be able to see what are we actually building in this system for this sprint. So in this instance, I would expect out of this sprint to see a contact information user interface page that has these fields and works according to our auditing and functional and data requirements that have been specified above. And in this business case, this is the format that has been followed for every single one of our sprint items. So we have one for customer, we have one for organization. And then once we get to sprint 2, we did product and service, we did the exact same thing. We identified the data requirements, the functional requirements, the auditing requirements, and again, that wireframe. Now the thing with utilizing the agile techniques and using the sprint methodology that is an agile technique is once an IT developer develops what's in sprint 1, essentially they're going to demo to the customer, here's what we built. The customer will be able to provide feedback of, hey, I really would like the organization name to be bolded. I really would like the organization name to be a link. The great part about this is these requirements were continuously updated. So as feedback was received from the customer, we updated these requirements. We updated the data requirements, the functional requirements, the auditing requirements, and the user interface requirements, and passed them off again with sprint 2 items to give to IT developers to then be able to continually improve the user interfaces. So we get into that agile-like methodology where we're no longer developing the system in totality, we're developing it in chunks, and we're continuously improving it based on the feedback that we're getting from our users. That's essentially what we are asking you to do with this group project for this course. Some other things that I just want to call out here at the end of this document for this business case. These are things that we won't be getting into, but I want to make sure that it's still talked about because it is still part of the software development lifecycle phases. When we get done with the design and the development of the system, we move into system implementation. Now, these things can also be implemented in sprints as well if the system is up and running and you have the base functions already implemented in the system and you want to continue to build on that and build other functions in. You can do sprint implementations as well. In this case, we had to get through the first 10 sprints before we could actually implement the system, where we did all the different kinds of testing that happens on a project. This is a major piece that often gets forgotten within the software development lifecycle. Every requirement that's put out, every change that is made needs to be tested in some way, shape, or form. And oftentimes there are many different tests that are performed on them. The last one is typically user acceptance testing, where you turn the system over to your users, and they're the ones who are actually playing with the system to ensure that, yes, it truly does fit our needs. Within sprints, you can also do that, where you can have users during the demo playing around with the system to see what other requirements may come out based on their use. After the system implements, there's also system security and support. This is essentially the maintenance of the system. It's been implemented now. If a user has a defect that they found, if they have issues, if they want to enhance the system, where do they go for that information? What IT members manage the hardware solutions, the software solutions, who gets called when the system goes down, etc. These are all things that we won't be doing with this group project, but I did want to at least discuss that these were part of this project as well. Many of these things were documented outside of this particular business case document, but they were referenced in this business case document. So essentially, that's the overview of the business case example, which ties directly to what you are being asked as a group to provide for your group business case for this course. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to your instructor.